美国名嘴咆哮美国民众。
场景一，
而且现在雾霾这么重，德国空气很好的呀。
是的，是的，但是因为中国嘛，它是从小我热爱的一个地方。我最热爱中国的民族文化和电影和音乐的。后来我小时候就看中国的少林功夫，后来也看中国的成龙的所有的电影。后来我12岁通过中国的电影，用中文德语字典学会了中文。自学的，完全自学的。我说中国醒来了，全世界会发抖。这个时候，没人相信中国会是未来的，没有人知道的。我们德国太严谨啊，在中国我觉得很放松，就是很开心。后来我老早住在石库门啊。就邻居都会关心我的呀，就不吃事的呀。
我想问一下那个谭雅丽，聊了半天，妈妈咪呀舞台一定是有妈妈级别才能来，
是
你是妈妈吗？
场景二，
地方是中国比较强，有的地方是印度比较强。I know some big ones. China is officially known as the Republic of China. Its army stands on the third rank in power wise. But China is also called as country of world. Many things also come from China. 1950, India and China are same. Now China is more powerful.
India is starting as work on the increasing the GDP. In 2015, the GDP will be increased 1.7%. In the world first, we are increasing our GDP step to step. We are future of India. We can fit.
场景三，
China is becoming the next superpower.
Do you think in the future, can China replace the status of the United States?
Can they replace the United States?
Yeah.
Oh, totally. Totally. Oh, the status?
What makes you think that? Yeah.
I just think that they're so far ahead of us technology-wise, it's crazy.
Do you like China?
I have nothing against them. Honestly, I have some Chinese friends, but I've never been to China, so I can't say I like the country, but I'm sure it's a beautiful country. I'd love to go there maybe one day.
And do you think in the future, can China replace the status of United States?
I'd like to see better relations between them.
Oh, that's the best answer. Yeah, we like to see the peace more peaceful, right?
Absolutely. Business-wise also, trade-wise. Obviously, the economy there must be booming, so.
Do you like the Chinese here or?
场景四，
They have some dysgenic fertility, but this will very likely in time be overcome by embryo selection. They do not have any dysgenic immigration and are unlikely to have it in the foreseeable future. China in particular will probably be the most successful of these countries because it does not have the handicap of being a democratic country. I don't believe that the dysgenic problem can be overcome in democracies. And China has a big advantage in this regard, that it could introduce policies such as paying high sums of money to female graduates to have children but not to the rest of the population. It can introduce policies of this kind, which would be unacceptable. When you're talking about sterilizing 23% of the male population, this will have a considerable eugenic effect. So, call this a pessimistic or an optimistic scenario. My view of the probable future is that while the genetic quality of the European populations declines, that of China will increase together with her economic and military power. And to conclude on a note of qualified optimism, I think it's probable that the torch of civilization will pass from the European.
场景五，
Go ahead and share with you some of the first impressions that I've noticed and pretty much let you glimpse into the life that I'm living here in Suzhou. Let's start this video. So before we dive into it, I just want to talk a little bit about where I am. The city that I'm living in currently is called Suzhou. It's about a 2-hour drive or a 30-minute bullet train ride away from Shanghai. With over 10 million people, Suzhou is one of the most popular tourist destinations in China, but I'll save that for another video. So a few impressions that I've had so far of China, one being the people are super friendly. I feel there is a stereotype that Chinese people might be considered rude or pushy, and I haven't experienced any of that yet here in China. Everyone is very accommodating and very friendly. Also, the area I'm living in China is very modern.
场景6
Growth of high-speed rail lines around the country is quite amazing, and there's still a queue of people trying to get on them. There's no empty seats on the trains, such as a demand. There's twice as much high-speed rail track in China already than there is across the whole of Europe. That's quite amazing. The investment in infrastructure, we've heard about Belt One Road, is in ports and it's in roadways, which have doubled in size over the last 5 to 6 years. It's in
场景7
会成功的。我看在历史上中国人做了很棒的事情，所以我觉得中国人有目的可以实现。但是我真的以为中国实现现代化、改革开放要60、70年，我以为我们都是干活是为了下一代，没想到10几年内变化这么快。我88年，有些人问我，你这么多年，你有在中国看到很多 change？ 我说都没有看到 change， 没有 change。taxi driver 没有 change， 小店没有 change。change 英语是改变，但是也是零钱的意思。我告诉朋友，这是真的。88年来的时候，人家都没有钱，现在也没有钱，都是用手机，所以现在也没有现金。哇，变化太快了。我很佩服中国一个方面，就是到现在中国是发展这么好、这么快的。
场景8
第二，在中国很安全。你知道中国人很少说吃饭后快步走，但是我每天跟夫人每次吃饭我们到外面走，早上可能半小时，中午10分钟，晚上可能1个小时，因为这边很美也很热闹。你看全世界现在大家都怕那个疫情，现在除了中国以外，其他国家人家都吓死了，不敢出门。除了美国人以外，他们不懂了，他们还是出门也不戴口罩。但是在中国，你看现在没人管，没人着急，没有人担心，因为中国政府解决了这个问题。为什么？今年2020年有精准的那个脱贫，也有精准肯定的，因为有精准。
场景9
Civilizational history and its civilizational inheritance. That's how it thinks of itself. Western countries, in contrast, essentially think of themselves overwhelmingly in terms of being nation states. I mean, the modern United States has only ever been a nation state. It's never been anything else. European countries are slightly different, but basically European countries think of themselves in terms of their national identity. That's why we call them nation states. And I would describe China as primarily being a civilization state and secondarily being a nation state. So I think there are 3 particular features of China as a civilization state that need to be taken into account. One is that there's extraordinary longevity, 2,000 years of history or more. Secondly, the relationship between Chinese civilization and political units, that's very unusual historically speaking, but there is a strong coincidence between the two. And thirdly is the sheer scale of China. 1/5 of the world's population. I mean, it is a continent, really. It's not.
场景10
One of the reasons we came to go and see that as well.
And after you arrived here, I mean, the first time, what was your feeling? Big shock, like totally different? Or?
Well, to be honest, we didn't really like it because it was really chaotic and really busy, and it was too much for us. But like we've been here now 5 days, and we do love it now. We feel like we're part of China now. We know our way around, and we've met lots of people, and everyone's so friendly. We know the food, and
once you get your to know the systems and how things work, it's a lot nicer, and it's really nice. Yeah.
I think the more you know it, the better it is.
Yeah.
I think the more you know
some cultural history, maybe more fun, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, of course.
I think the hardest thing is a language barrier.
Yeah. I see.
So especially for we want to try local food, for example, but it's hard to go into a local restaurant because they never have an English menu or English speakers.
Day 4. Y la comida china me parece, siempre desde muy pequeño me pareció muy atractiva.
Y en cuanto a la población, sabemos que son muchos, que si se lo proponen.
场景11
The technology, they've got the elements
China is the technological future of the world, as well as Australia.
Which country do you think will lead us into the future of tech?
Probably China.
China.
Chinese and Finland.
场景12。
你好吗？谁是你？ Chinese. It's too late. It's too late to learn Chinese. It's over. No, it's true. It's true because it's also one of the hardest languages in the world. I mean, how do you learn Chinese now? Just they've got over 10,000 characters in the alphabet. You know this? 10,000 characters. We've got 26 in English, and there's still people going, "What comes after Q?" 26. This is 10,000 they've got. That's super smart. Although they must have the worst Sesame Street in the world. It must suck being a Muppet in that country. I can just see them on a Monday morning singing to the kids. 西跑冲朝西走西，从房间从朝西。5 years later, 从朝鲜，请早书，请宝典。
场景13。
Then she's like, "Oh my God, you're like totally choking me right now, and I can't breathe, and this is so not on. I am so gonna tweet about this. This is like the worst thing ever. Oh, I am so dying. OMG. This is, it's horrible. Whereas Japanese is strong. Japanese, you speak from the chest. A lot of the Americans are learning Chinese. I've seen, Chinese. I see people say, "You gotta learn Chinese. They're taking over. Chinese. Ni hao ma. Shi shi ni. Chinese." It's too late. It's too late to learn Chinese. It's over. No, it's true. It's true because it's also one of the hardest languages in the world. I mean, how do you learn Chinese now? Just they've got over 10,000 characters in the alphabet. You know this? 10,000 characters. We've got 26 in English, and there's still people going, "What comes after Q?" 26. This is 10,000 they've got. That's super smart. Although they must have the worst Sesame Street in the world. It must suck being a Muppet in that country. I can just see them on a Monday morning singing to the kids. 西跑冲朝西走西，从房间从朝西。5 years later, 从朝鲜，请早。
场景14。
Busiest ports in the world. How many do you think are in China? Well, let me tell you. 7. How many do you think are in the United States? None. How many do you think are in Europe? None. It's remarkable what is happening here. Now, is it remarkable in some senses? Yes, of course it is, but we go back to this point, that China has been a dominant economic power through human history. It comes because of the Central Plain, which I was walking right across between the Yellow River.
场景15。
Do you think that the Chinese don't know that we can't land a spaceship on the dark side of the moon? Do you think the Russians don't know that for the first time since John Glenn was sent up to orbit this planet, America cannot put a person into space without asking the Russians to do it? Do you think the rest of the world doesn't know that we're not investing in our infrastructure? That we're not investing in the young generation of Americans? That we're willing to lose the race for artificial intelligence to the Chinese? That we're going to break all of our long-standing alliances since World War II at a moment when China is rising? China's GDP has quadrupled since 2001, tripled since 2003, doubled since 2009. Do we think that no one in the rest of the world knows all of that about us?
场景16。
40,000 kilometers of high-speed rail. America has none. Our fastest train is the train that goes around the zoo.
场景17。
Families, for parents, for education, for healthcare, that all of a sudden we can't pay for any of these things. But when it comes to tax subsidies for private jets, we've got the money for that. when it comes to the endless appropriation towards more and more military spending, when we aren't even technically in growing elements of war, according to some people. We have money for that, but we don't have money to feed our own kids. We don't have money to educate people. We don't have money to provide health care. But we have money for private jets. We have money for tax loopholes for yachts. We have money.
Preview.